Welcome into this week's Game of the Week, featuring the 13th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide and the 11th ranked Vanderbilt Commodores. This is how these watch parties will go. You'll see here on the screen here now the game cast from tonight's game. This game on ESPN2 right now. The Kentucky Missouri game kind of bleeding over into the time slot for Alabama and Vanderbilt. So we'll get to that as soon as we can. You'll be watching there on the screen, your own screen at home, watching the game. I'll try to give you time updates. That way you can follow along at the exact same time that the stream is going if you'd like to. Beyond just talking about the score and the game and what's happening, I've also got here Fast Draw open. Fast Draw is a fast draw, the Fast Draw fast model diagramming software available for purchase that you can basically use to library and diagram plays. And I'll be using this to diagram some of the plays that we see. One of the things that I also want to include in this, give you some coaches' insights, some things that I would be paying attention to. And so when you look here up on the screen, you'll see that I have for you here some keys to the game for tonight, some things that I'll be watching for, things that I always enjoy watching, especially with the Crimson Tide. The first one there, just to win the 3 point volume battle with Vanderbilt. Nate Oates' team lives, dies by the 3 point arc. Alabama leads the nation in 3 point attempts, about 36 to 37 between 36 and 37 3 point attempts per game. They're coming off a performance where they just hit 15 threes against Kentucky. If you're going to win in a hostile environment like Vanderbilt, and they're going to need their 3 point shooters to keep pressure on the perimeter against Vanderbilt. Second one there is to neutralize the glass, probably one of Alabama's weaknesses, been defensive rebounding. They rank 286th in the country in defensive rebounding. So to prevent the Vanderbilt bigs from getting easy buckets and easy second chance points, they're going to have to make sure that they limit second chance opportunities on the defensive glass. Then the last one there, just simply to manage the pace. Both of these teams play really quickly, really fast, pace really high. Alabama even quicker in tempo. They're top 10 in the country, and they need to ensure that their transition game gets them some quality looks. Have seen Nate Oates say, willing to shoot even in transition 3 point attempts gives you opportunities that probably you wouldn't get later in the possession. So getting high quality looks instead of turning the ball over in transition. Vanderbilt really thrives on speeding up opponents and forcing mistakes. So it's important for Alabama to make sure that they're the ones that are managing the pace. Then on the other side for Vanderbilt, called the Duke Miles factor. Vanderbilt leading scorer, best defender, expected to play tonight. Has been out the last 2 games, and so his presence, a little over 17 points per game, really important for Vanderbilt to be able to get the win at home. And then the second one there to exploit the front court advantage. Alabama's interior typically a little bit thinner than Vanderbilt is, and so on their side, making sure that they control the glass similarly to how I said with Alabama. Then the last one there, just to maintain efficiency and chaos. Both of the teams really want to run, push the ball, and Vanderbilt actually ranks higher in effective field goal percentage. They're in the top 10 than Alabama does. We talked a lot on this channel about the 4 factors and how important effective field goal percentage is. So the key for Commodores to avoid kind of the track meet and the turnover fest that could ensue against Alabama. Going to need their playmakers to make sure that they're scoring in the fast break there. Game now on ESPN2. So I'll pull this up here. Early score. The game that I'm watching, 17-25. Score is 7-3. The game cast will update from time to time. Like I said, the keys to the game: quick pace from both teams. Vanderbilt does a great job of getting in the paint, creating scoring opportunities through its guards, and then also drawing defenders and pitching very similarly Alabama with the same kind of attack where they're getting into the paint, then kicking, scoring, shooting a lot of threes. You can see every time that the Alabama guards do get into the paint, looking to score obviously first and have really athletic guards, but then head is always up, looking to shoot. Even there, off the tip, kind of a broken play, shooting the three. Same idea again, just getting to the bucket, spreading the floor, lots of pace. You'll see Alabama come down, 5 out. They want to keep that paint as open as possible. So again, they can get to the paint, Get a piece of the paint, 2 feet, or 2 foot finish there. Love the different finishes. We talk a lot about the finishes, finishing school. I know a lot of you guys do, but the finishes off of 2 feet, especially when you're in the paint there against defense, any kind of small advantage shot, typically going to play off 2 feet. 13-5 advantage, 16:01 for the time on the clock right now with Alabama with the ball. Alabama coming down 5 out again. Kind of a ram screen there. So ram is anytime that somebody goes and screens for the guy who's going to come out and ball screen. And I've got a couple of those that I can show you here. So first media timeout, 15:49 left in the first half. Vanderbilt getting into the paint repeatedly here early on. 13-5 advantage for them going into the break. Go ahead and switch over. Show you here the fast model fast draw. Probably a lot of you are familiar with this. But at the conclusion of this, if you're interested in getting the plays from the Alabama Vanderbilt game, if you see anything during this live stream that you'd like to have drawn up, I'm willing to do that as well. But you can see here several different plays from this year's Alabama and Vanderbilt teams. I also have some older as well, Alabama with a lot of 5 out stuff. They use a ton of zooms. They'll even use some Ricky actions, double drags. I like to use double drags, just basic double drag stuff. They'll also do flare stuff out of it, kind of like almost a triple zoom action where you go and hand the ball off and then have the drag and transition there. And some Iverson stuff as well. From time to time, they'll run some horns thing. I've seen them run horns action out of some timeouts here. Kind of getting to a middle ball screen basic action. This one I really like. I saw this one earlier in the year. We've even used this one from time to time. But instead of just a ball screen where you have your corner guys holding the corners here, so lifting behind it like you would a typical ball screen, but then sending the cutter across from one corner to the right, on the right there with the 2 to the left to the opposite corner there, and then pushing away the 4. And what happens with that is you basically move X3 from being the tag guy after the ball screen. So I can draw that instead of X3 being the tagger, X2 is he's chasing along the baseline. And X4 typically will show. And one way or the other, you end up with either help coming from the corner, which I know that's a no-no, but still they can't help themselves sometimes. Or you end up with little to no help because X2 is deciding whether or not he wants to give help from the corner or tag the roll. And if he decides to get help, then you can skip it over the top there for a shot in the corner. And sometimes if the defense is great, put them in the blender. X3 may cover down here to 2, and then it's a quick one more pass up from the corner to the wing for a 3-point shot there. So had some success. You may have to run it once or twice on your own team to see kind of how it works, but one that I really enjoy. And that is a great like end of possession, end of half, end of quarter play to run. That historically a lot of times it's just spread the floor and then run a ball screen, but now adding that extra movement and eliminating help or causing help to kind of be confused a little bit generates for you an easy bucket. One of those where I'd suggest probably going on, with like 12, 13 seconds rather than like 10 or even single digits to give you an extra second for that one more pass if you need to have a one more pass there from the 2 to the 3. $13.5 Vanderbilt going on a 12-2 run here. Mark Byton, great success early on. I'm kind of excited to see his teams here going forward. Really interesting too. Men's and women's team undefeated for Vanderbilt. Kind of unsuspecting. Probably wouldn't necessarily think that. High ball screen, get in the paint, kick it, make the extra one more pass, draw two. Probably could have kicked it, made a skip pass over the far corner. Probably would have had an open three available. So more common terminology that you probably know now, but putting the defense in the blender, where essentially you're putting pressure on the rim, drawing a second defender, and now the defense, if you kick the ball, they're having to basically scramble, call it putting them in the blender to make a rotation. You get one or two extra passes or drive, kick one more, drive, kick one more. Then pretty good chance you're gonna end up with what commonly referred to now as a big advantage shot, so an open shot. And historically, we've just talked about a team being good moving the ball, but in actuality, it's not just passing the ball and moving the ball, but it's getting two to the ball or forcing help to come and then exploiting that help by making the extra pass, one more pass. Sometimes there can be a drive in there with that as well, but putting them in the blender, I see that more common terminology, like I said, that probably some have heard that may not understand what that means. 13-7, interesting. Alabama kind of on the floor with five guards here. Vanderbilt also kind of a fun place to play. You got the coaches right there on the baseline. Coach Oates right there on the in the ear of the baseline official. 13-7, 13:57 left in the first half. If you're following along watching, keep an eye out here. This is a great ATO opportunity off of a free throw make for them to come down and run something, run a set play. Let's check to see whether they're four out, five out here. Kind of got a little bit more size on the floor now. More pressure on the rim for the defense is set and going to the free throw line. Sometimes best offense, just being able to push the ball after a make or a miss off of a free throw. Don't typically have a defense that's set. Most guys have a mentality of just kind of jog back. So after free throws, great chance to be able to get something, at least be able to get a piece of the paint. If you have two or three guys running, you can get a piece of the paint and create a big advantage shot off of that initial drive there right after the free throw. Same thing for Vanderbilt here. Let's see ATO wise if they've got anything off of a miss. Set play coming here. Dribble handoff, kind of a weave to a pin down. Just at will, just getting into the paint. It's a third bucket here just for Tanner getting into the paint, 2 feet, playing off 2 feet and scoring. Ram action again, getting a piece of the paint, turned it over. So 4 out, 1 in. Now 5 out, setting the ball screen even with the guard. 5 out, create space again, playing off 2 feet, getting in the paint. You play 5 out, it really gives you a lot of lanes, especially if you pass and cut for spacing, not necessarily passing and cutting to score. Down the floor, spaced again, plenty of space. Can't really stay in front and guard. Drive, kick. Maybe could have one moored it to a better 3-point shooter there, but early drag screen. So ball comes up the floor, back to the point guard. Drag, there's some point over, kind of Princeton type stuff. Let's see if they can take advantage of this. Had the numbers advantage and took it in against three guys. That's one of those where I'm telling my guys, like, you've done your job drawing two. You draw two, pitch, drive, kick, one more. Timeout. Under 12 media timeout. 11:35 left. 15-10. Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt does a ton of both drag stuff, and they really love Spain action. So after your timeouts, you'll end up with see a lot this double drag that they do in transition. So called double drag when you have two guys up there at the top that are setting the screen, and they'll dive the second guy and they'll pop the first. So you see the four there at the top setting the first screen. He'll screen and then kind of space out to the wing. Then the five sets the second screen and he dives to the rim. And again, that idea that I was talking about earlier, where you have two that clears out to the other side and basically eliminates the low man help defender that is typically there. And so a lot of times they'll come off of that ball screen and be able to throw it right to the front of the rim with five diving to the rim for a shot. And the team that wants to then combat that will a lot of times send X3 over to tag. So you'll end up with X3. So now that 2 is over on this side, X2 is over here with him. And so they'll be worried about 5 diving. And so as one comes off the ball screen, they'll tag here, and 1 will have an easy pitch over there to 3. So instead, they'll want to stay here closely guarded, which gives you an easy pass there to the front of the rim for 5 to finish. So double drag, they run that a whole lot in transition, not necessarily as an ATO or anything. Then the other one is a Spain. So let me see. They'll get to Spain several different ways. I drew up 2 of the ways, and there's probably at least 3 or 4 more ways that they'll do this that I've seen them do. But one is the Iverson. So we call it an Iverson cut after Allen Iverson. The 76ers used to run him over the top of these 2 screens while the other guard would run underneath. He'd run over the top, catch it. You have an ISO with space over on this side of the floor, but runs over the top. 4 then sets a screen for 5. So on X5 there, again, that kind of that RAM idea where you're screening the screener. So 4 would screen for 5. 5 would pop and set the ball screen. And the second frame, so what happens immediately after that, 4 turns around and sets a screen on 5, on X5. His man's usually like showing. So X5 usually kind of helps on the first screen. So on this ball screen over here. So as he comes out to help, he'll step over to help. And that's where 4 back screens. It's called Spain action, where you have a ball screen, then immediately followed by a back screen. And 5 will dive to the rim, usually unabated for an open shot there. So just one of the ways that they get to Spain action. A couple more ways that they do it as well. If it pops up here on the game, then I'll diagram it. Some of the other ways that they do that. Okay, back in play. ATO opportunity here. It was off of a blob. You couldn't really see it. I hate when they do that. But 18-10, 11:29 left in the first half. So early screen, slip. Not really sure what Vanderbilt defender was doing there. Kind of fell asleep. Easy 3 for Alabama. Love that action. Doug Novak runs it, calls it a button hook, very similar to that button hook, but you just kind of have a flat ball screen. You stick the other big right there in the center of the lane. His man's really worried about him posting up. You can just kind of set kind of that flat screen, and the point guard can get downhill. And on that one, super easy finish for Vanderbilt. Another 3-point opportunity, offensive rebound. Talked about that at the beginning, being the keys with the two teams. Defensive rebounding, easy putbacks. Long three and one. Great to have Miles back for Vanderbilt. Turns them into an even tougher team to beat. That one's deep. Talk to my guys about having an early hand, so having a high hand. I mean, a hand which basically is just kind of like up a little bit at chest level is not going to do anything for a shooter at a D1 level. You got a true shooter out there that's ready to catch and shoot from 2 or 3 steps behind the 3-point line. We say we want to have an early hand, so early high hand, and that a lot of times will kind of discourage the 3-point shooter from shooting and also give a little bit of a distraction, but at least a little bit more effective than having either a hand down, obviously, or having a hand at like chest level. It's not really going to do anything. Saw the help from the corner there, then kind of a step up screen. Vanderbilt switching right now, guard to guard at least. I don't know if they're switching 1 through 5. I didn't see, but early drag again, even on the wing. Miles calling for the post up on the mismatch, sees a mismatch. Great opportunity to exploit that. Another big advantage opportunity. Big advantage doesn't always have to be an open shot. Big advantage could also be a size advantage for one of your players, whether in the post or on the perimeter, either one. Space the floor, 5 out. Lots of ball screens. Vanderbilt switching to neutralize those big advantages. 26-17 right now. Those that are just joining us, watching the Vanderbilt Alabama game, watch party here, game of the week, doing these once a week during the college basketball season through the end of the season. Also adding in some fast draw stuff here, drawing up some of the plays, talking through some of this from a coaching perspective. Alabama primarily a 5-out team, sets a lot of screens, single screens. Vanderbilt doing a great job kind of neutralizing those 5-out Ram series. So Ram screen from Alabama, where you have the uh, usually a 4 going down and setting a ball screen or setting a screen on the guy who's coming out to set a ball screen. Alabama guards a lot of times trying to just space the floor, get a piece of the paint, draw a second defender, create a big advantage shot. We talked earlier about putting teams in a blender. So getting a piece of the paint, drawing a second defender, driving to the basket, drawing a second defender. Could even be throwing the ball into the post, although Alabama doesn't really do that a whole lot. Primarily, both of these two teams are driving to the paint, drawing a second defender, forcing the defense to rotate, forcing the next guy to rotate. We talk about as that as being putting them in the blender, and the goal there is to basically create a big advantage shot where you have a wide open shot. Historically, we talk about that just being a team having a good ball movement. Passing the ball isn't creating a big advantage shot all of the time. It's intentionally and strategically uh, creating a two on the ball and then kicking, pitching, open shot, or forcing guys to again get in the blender. This is one of those Vanderbilt talked earlier in the stream about this, but Vanderbilt doing a great job of eliminating the low help man, which creates basically roll opportunities off of a ball screen. They do a lot of that through like an empty side where they empty out of a side. So you'll see a lot of times. Let me switch over here so you can see it on the stream. Vanderbilt, well, a lot of times they'll like to run this like in transition, just kind of demonstrates this, but they'll have the early drag. So a drag screen is when you have two screens up there at the top. So a ball screen followed by another ball screen. They'll dive the second guy. They'll clear out the two, which basically forces X3 to give help. And so if X3 leaves his man, then you have an easy pitch to the corner here. If X3 stays with his man, then you have basically an easy dive to the basket where you have an easy finish at the rim. Or if X2 steps over to help from here in the corner, then you have an easy pitch over there to the corner for an open three. If you're looking for more from Nate Oates, look down in the description. There are several different resources down there that you can look at. I have a video too on the channel that breaks down a lot of his favorite 5-out actions. So if you're looking for even some quick hitters out of 5-out or some things that you can implement out of a timeout, there's video that has several of those in it that's here on the channel. And there's also a couple different one that's a clinic, a couple different resources from Nate Oates. One that's a clinic that he did actually back when he was at Buffalo, but a lot of the same things, incorporating small sided games and constraints led approach. And then there's also like a drill book and a playbook of some of his favorite plays, and that's linked down below as well. Out of bounds opportunity here for Alabama, sidelines out of bounds play. A lot of these teams for sidelines out of bounds plays, they'll actually just run a set. So especially like 5-out teams, they'll just call a regular 5-out set. So they'll just get the ball in and then go straight into one of their 5-out ATOs instead of having like a separate slob that they run. So a sidelines out of bounds play. So easy way for you to basically run a play out of a sidelines out of bounds play without having to come up with a whole new series of sidelines out of bounds plays. So just something to think about if your team has a hard time memorizing plays, remembering plays, similar to how the LA Lakers are having a hard time remembering plays right now, apparently. Turner done a great job so far getting a piece of the paint early on. So playing out of the ball screen there. Again, you see in the cutting the guard there from the left side corner to the right side corner and eliminating help defense. There's no tag guy now on a roll to the basket. So if you're going to use a lot of ball screens and just camp your shooters in the corner, expect it to be very difficult to throw the ball to the guy that's on the roll because there's help that's coming from either corner there. So instead, moving that guard along the baseline, like you can see here in the diagram, which forces his defender to move with him across the paint. And when he moves across the paint with him, now there's nobody here in this yellow circle to provide help defense on the 5 that's rolling to the basket. So if you're a team that sets a lot of ball screens and rolls to the basket, I'd encourage you to think about ways that you can eliminate help defense by just simply moving guys to the opposite corner, rotating them out of the typical spaces where they're just going to stand and kind of sag over and guard two on a pick and roll situation there. If you're watching this and you are not a member already, I'd encourage you to take a look at it. Each week, we give members only videos that have small sided games, film breakdowns as well. If you're into the 2-1-2 zone pressure zone defense, then that's something that there are videos for that each week. If you're looking for playbooks, there's playbooks that are offered as well, plays, other types of resources, small sided games. If there's short, small sided games that we share sometimes from week to week. So, something to check out if you're already not a member of the YouTube channel here. We'll show you this while we're at the halftime or at the media timeout here. This one's pretty simple. I like to run this 5 out, but come down the floor, pass down to the corner, pass down to the corner there, then use the 5 to come over instead of flare screen. So this is kind of like a Princeton type action that Alabama runs. So if you're familiar with Princeton, this should look like something that you probably have done before in like a one down flare. But throwing the ball, just coming down the floor, the one coming down the floor, throwing it down there to the corner, and then sending the 5 over to set a flare screen, and then fanning or flaring off one, flaring off that screen, throwing it back to him. And at the same time, the 2 is clearing out. So you have basically a back cut there, a 45 cut, using the 45 cut on the weak side of the floor. So the side of the floor that doesn't have the ball on it, using the 45 cut to dive to the rim. Basically, he's there to, yes, maybe have it be open on a cut that 4 can get him the ball. But really, we're trying to clear him out to that corner so that we can throw it over the top, catch the ball, and then we call this a triple gap. So from slot to slot is one gap. Then from slot to wing is a second gap. And then from the wing to the corner is a third gap. So you have a triple gap there that now the 1 can drive, and 3 is out here on an island. X3 is out here on an island to basically decide, do I want to step over and give help? If so, then you'll see Alabama pitch it to the corner for a 3. And then if the shooter's here in the corner and he doesn't want to leave the shooter, then you have basically an opportunity for a drive and a score. And we've already seen that several times in this half. Alabama guards getting downhill, getting into the paint. You can tell they work a ton on finishing inside, finishing against small advantages, even sometimes finishing against something that may look like no advantage. They do a great job of drawing fouls and getting to the paint. Right now, if you're watching this, so I'm watching right now on ESPN2, the Alabama Vanderbilt game. Vanderbilt leading right now 30-17. Alabama, we've talked about this, but being a team that's 5 out a lot of times, just hit another 3, leading the country in 3-point attempts per game, coming off of a game against Kentucky where they hit 15 threes. Don't have that many tonight, but still shooting a lot. Again, Ram, Turner getting into the paint, doing his job this time. This is the first time I've seen it tonight. Instead of him being able to get to the bucket and score, drawing 2, like even 3 defenders, playing off 2 feet gives you that opportunity, kind of gives you a chance to like your eyes to slow down and to be able to see to make a good decision. But playing off 2 feet, making the pitch to the corner, and then generating an open 3-point attempt, even though they didn't get it. There's that Spain action. So running, this case, they're 4 up through the middle. And then after the drag screen is set, screening the guy's defender who just set the drag screen. So, like I said, Vanderbilt using Spain action a whole lot. I have that diagrammed up for you here if you want to see that. But they run Spain, Ram Spain, and then exit out of the corner. They'll run that one a lot. Running it out of Iverson as well. And then I can draw it up here. But Vandy setting a drag, Spain action, where 1 comes down the floor, 2 and 3, 4 and 5. So 5 setting the screen, 2 making his way up here, 1 coming off the screen, Two setting a screen on X5 when he shows and dive into the rim, throwing it over the top. So Vanderbilt, a lot of different ways that they'll use Spain action. But one of those where if that's one of your actions, you can run it without it being a separate play call. You can just integrate it naturally into your half court offense. Vanderbilt again, Spain action. Duke Miles with another bucket there, tough bucket. 5 out. Love running what Alabama just did there. Well, they'll set a middle ball screen, and while that middle ball screen is happening, they'll set a flare to the corner. So let me draw that up for you. But 5 out. Alabama with 5 out. And a ball screen with a flare. So 5 out here. You got your two shooters there at the top, your one and your two. They're playing a lot tonight with 5 guards, sometimes 4 guards, but with 5 guards, this is one of those where they're just running 5 out early offense, sets a ball screen, comes off the ball screen. And while that's happening, he's setting the step up, the flare there from the corner. And so, depending on how the defense plays it, you either have him on the roll or you can send a flare off to the corner there. And as most of us know, we always love setting a flare and then slipping that guy to the front of the rim as well. So, really, 3 scoring opportunities out of that one play. And it's not really even a play. It's just coming down on 5 out and your team making a read. Guys in the corner being alert to where there's a great opportunity to take advantage of a defender who just caught staring at the basketball. So the two X2 just caught kind of staring at the basketball. They're in transition, coming off of a ball screen. He's probably going to want to, maybe give help a little bit to help X1 on the early ball screen. We don't want one turning the corner and getting a piece of the paint. So he's staring at the basketball. And while he's staring at the basketball, X4 comes up, sets a flare screen. Maybe X4's man's really concerned because X2 is not paying attention. So he goes with 2 to the corner. And when he goes with 2 to the corner, 4 just slips right there to the paint. And you have a slip and a score, easy slip and score there. So not really plays, just teaching your players to be alert to what's happening, watching the defense, taking advantage of guys falling asleep, either out of position, watching the basketball, and then making the right read accordingly. Right now, if you're watching the game, we're watching on ESPN, ESPN2, coming out of the media timeout. Only a few minutes left here in the first half. Sidelines out of bounds play for Alabama. The score right now is 34-24. Time on the clock is 5 minutes and 40 seconds. If you want to, maybe you're ahead, maybe you're a little bit behind. That's where we're at watching right now. Alabama here playing out of 5 out most of the time. Always a threat to shoot. So just a little catch, shot fake, offensive rebound for Alabama. Gets fouled and put back. We talked about that being the one of the keys to the game at the beginning. We'll watch with these games of the week. We'll watch up until the halftime. So only about 5 minutes left. We'll talk a little about maybe some adjustments that might be made at halftime. And then we'll sign off for the night. And we'll do this again, like I said, next week. So if you're not a member of the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Can become a member. Weekly videos available to you in the form of small-sided games and mic'd up practices. We even do team breakdowns sometimes, film sessions, which may be helpful for you. 5 minutes and 23 seconds left here in the first half. Vanderbilt up 34-25. Watching here on ESPN2. Talked a little bit about Vanderbilt. Some of what they like to run. So that flat ball screen out of a timeout, out of a dead ball. where they'll take the center, set kind of a screen, and they may want to look at that elbow to the face. They'll set a ball screen with the 5, and then they'll bring the guy who was the 4 up to the middle, kind of set a flat ball screen there. I'll draw that up for you here in just a second so you can see that. So off the free throw here, Vanderbilt up 34-28, 4:46 left in the first half on ESPN2. If you're watching along, opportunity here for an ATO. Always like to watch right after a free throw, not necessarily always out of a timeout, but after a free throw. We have a Ram screen. So anytime that you go down, set the screen on the guy who's coming out to set the screen. And then just like been talking about here on the broadcast, after you set that Ram screen, then the guy who just set that screen turns around and runs back out and sets a screen on the screener's man. So you've got basically Ram immediately into Spain. I can draw that one up as well. Super simple action. So Ram Spain. Got the ball handler up here at the top. They'll do this a lot of times with their 4 or with the shooter, either one. But come down, set a screen, come out, set a ball screen, and immediately turn it back around. And as he's coming off of that ball screen, comes off of that ball screen, he'll set a screen on X5, allowing him to get back to the rim, and they'll throw a lob for that. So a 4-point game here. It's 3:35, under 4 timeout here. So final timeout here of the half. Duke Miles with a tough basket. 3:35 left, 36-32 here in the first half. So again, just talking through this. Early offense coming down in transition. One has the ball. Your 4 could be anybody. Sometimes you'll put a shooter there, but go set this Ram screen. So we're setting a screen for the guy who's coming out to set a ball screen. So 4 would go down and screen for X, or go screen 5 would screen X5. Come out and set a ball screen. And as he's setting the ball screen, come back up. X5 would be trailing the play at this point, late to showing. 4 would screen again X5 and roll 5 to the front of the rim, throw the lob over the top. They didn't get a bucket off of it, but again, another way that you can see I already have here drawn up 1, 2, 3. 3 opportunities to create something off of a ball screen and that Spain action. So again, if you don't know what Spain action is, setting a ball screen immediately followed by a back screen. And you don't always have to throw it to the roll guy there, I mean, he may come off of this screen. Let's say he goes wider than that, comes off of that screen. You'd have to think that X4 wants to help out, so he probably sinks to help out, and you basically just pop. So after he sets the back screen, 4 pops, and instead of throwing it to the roll guy, you throw it back to 5 on the pop for a shot there. So 2 opportunities to score typically off of Spain action. I mean, you may even get a third one where guy from the corner sees that that's happening and steps in to help out, and instead you skip it over the top to 3 for a shot over there in the corner. So those that are watching, watch party here with Alabama and Vanderbilt. And if you're new to this, putting together afterwards, if you're a member of the page of the channel, you can get a playbook after this that has plays from tonight's game and from this season from Alabama and Vanderbilt. Theme from Vanderbilt has been using Spain action to score, and then Alabama, of course, with a lot of 5 out, running a lot of ball screens for guys to get a piece of the paint, draw 2, kick and pitch, flare screens. They use a lot of flare screens. There's one that I saw from last game against Kentucky that I really liked. That I haven't watched them. I haven't seen them run tonight yet. But Alabama will, let me see where it's at here. There it is right there. This twist action. So they'll center it, throw it into the 5. The 3 will come underneath of X1 and then turn around and screen him on the outside. And 1 will come off of that. So it's basically screen, then take the handoff again. And the game that I saw, the time I saw it there with Kentucky, came off of that handoff and just shot it. But again, you could get a piece of the paint, pitch it to 4, 5 could roll off of that. Either one. Out of the timeout, Alabama with the score. So only just a 2-point game here. 3:21 in the first half. If you're watching along, here's your Iverson right here. So Iverson out to a ball screen, sets another ball screen, empties that side out. Kind of had him there. Did nobody help from the corner. So talking how we did with the emptying aside, setting a ball screen. There's no help. There's no low man to give help on that empty side. So you end up with a wide open shot a lot of times. And just repeatedly gets a piece of the paint, draws 2, then pitch, and then wide open shot. Offensive rebound, kick, knocks down the 3. We call that dagger threes. Got that from Jay Wright. I think technically a dagger 3 would be kick it, then pitch it one more. So off an offensive rebound. If you don't have a clear backup, we talk to our team a lot about we're hunting daggers. So off that offensive rebound, if you don't have an easy putback, it's immediately catch it, pitch it. Sometimes the defense can recover on something like that, but usually they have a hard time recovering to a second guy. So offensive rebound, pitch it, and then kick it one more. You'll end up with a wide open shot. Sometimes it can come right off of the inside out. So right off the offensive rebound, kick it out, you have a wide open shot, just like Alabama did. But hunting those dagger threes, easy way to get that. They love those long threes from the wing there. So 1-point game now, 2 minutes left in the first half. Alabama down by 1, 38-37. This is one that I really like. I'll show this one here when we're at the end. I saw this one again from the Kentucky game. So several great plays from that Kentucky game that I picked up. But kind of a 5 out, not necessarily a true 5 out here, but ram screen again. So ram 3, screening 2, 2 is going to come out. And instead of setting a true screen, you set kind of like the ghost screen, kind of tap them on the leg as you go by to create a little bit of confusion. But it's a ghost screen that's actually immediately followed by a flare screen. And so you get not only the confusion right here, but you also get the flare screen. And if 5x5 by chance shows on that, then you have a slip to the rim by 5 where you can just hit him on the roll. But in the game that I was watching, the Kentucky play that I saw, he ended up with a wide open three from over there on the left side. I would guess that they shoot a pretty high percentage from over there on that left side because they take a lot of threes from over there. That's one of those where not all threes are created equal. And if you're not looking on your huddle or synergy or whatever it is that you use to see where you're getting your threes and how well you're shooting your threes from different spots, I'd encourage you to do that. Feels like another one's coming right here. Yep, another three from that left wing there. Didn't hit it this time. Early push and transition, 2 feet in the paint. Didn't generate anything, but clearly something that they're trying to push for. I talked earlier about horns, and they'll run horns from time to time. A really basic horn set that you can draw up out of a timeout that wouldn't take a whole lot of practice, probably, if you have even a mildly decent IQ team. But horns play, you put your shooter up in one of the points up there at the top, and the point guard is running off of the shooter. So whichever side your shooter is on, that's the side that you want the point guard running off of. So it goes off the screen there, and it's kind of again kind of like a ghost screen, and the same idea as I just showed you on that last play with the flare screen, where it sets the ghost screen. So figure one, frame one here, you have two setting the ghost screen. That's what's illustrated here, where he acts like he's coming up to set a screen, then comes off of it, and five steps up to set the flare screen. You might have an easy pitch back for a three over there, but then what's called the Ricky action, where you set a flare screen and immediately flip the screener. So five turns around and rescreens for the two, comes back off of that. You can get a ton of open looks with that. So especially if the defense goes under something like that, you can flip it, screen again. He comes back off of it. You get a wide open three up there at the top. So super simple way to generate a 3-point opportunity out of a horn set. Can, like I said, probably draw that up and execute that just out of a timeout. Don't even really need to practice that very much. But that Ricky action is really tough to guard. I see a lot of teams that will run Ricky over here on the wings as well. So they'll screen, come off of a screen, then turn around, rescreen, bring a guy back. So sometimes the ball's like here in the corner. Um, and usually they start it with a ball screen. So wherever the ball is, it's usually a ball screen first, and then a screen, then flip the guy, let him come back off the screen with that Ricky action for a 3-point attempt. So just a minute, 10 seconds left here in the first half. Watching here on ESPN, Alabama and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt right now with a 3-point lead. 1 minute and 10 seconds left. Alabama at the free throw line, shooting the second. Knocks down the free throw. Now it's 39-41, minute and 10 seconds left. After a free throw, great opportunity for us to see. Usually set plays. Turner's been great getting a piece of the paint, getting into the paint, scoring, or creating a shot for somebody else. Early ball screen. Turner getting into the paint. Vanderbilt ball screen again. Got a flare from the corner. So what I just drew up for Alabama, Vanderbilt just ran there. Tough shot. Wouldn't necessarily call that a big advantage shot. Just Alabama great in transition, getting downhill, spacing the floor. When you come down in 5 out, that automatically creates for you open lanes, especially when you're not playing against a set defense. Another tough shot by Vanderbilt. Miles with a tough shot here. So after being behind the whole first half, Alabama an opportunity here to get the lead going into the half. Okay, 4 out, 1 in. Let's see if he comes out and sets a ball screen. This may be the one that we showed earlier. Tough shot. Tough shot again. Awesome first half. So 43-43 at the half. If you're watching this, want to get these plays, you can reach out to me either through Twitter or through Instagram. Talked at the beginning about our keys to the game here. Three-point volume. Let's take a look and see. First half, Alabama with 18 3-pointers, so right on track for their 36 that they usually average per game, but only shooting 28%, which is kind of crazy that it's a tied ball game going into the half. Vanderbilt only with 10 3-pointers in the first half, but having shot 17 free throws, slight advantage for them there. So looking back at our points for the game, our keys to the game here, talking about the 3-point volume, getting up as many 3-pointers again in the second half as they did in the first half, and hopefully connecting on a few more, neutralizing the glass, rebounding advantage here, 16 for Alabama, only 13 for Vanderbilt on the defensive glass, but second chance opportunities for Alabama, 8 for Alabama, only 3 for Vanderbilt there. So creating more opportunities for them to score. And we saw even late in the first half, getting the offensive rebound, kicking it back out, and getting that dagger three that we talked about. And then I would say for sure Alabama pushing the pace, getting opportunities early, but that last play of the half, Vanderbilt scoring on that to tie the game on an early push, taking advantage of Alabama not getting back there. So great game, 43-43 at the half. Second half coming up here. Really appreciate those of you that followed along. Hoping to do this a little bit more here in the new year college basketball season, just with about 10 weeks left until March Madness, and we'll continue this on through the second half of the season, and hopefully do some games even into March Madness. So appreciate those of you watching. We'll talk to you again next time.